Hi guys, welcome to another tutorial on how to animate. I'm gonna start off where we left off with the little caterpillar, and I kind of accidentally deleted the other one, so I just kind of remade it again. As you can tell, I kind of have two extra caterpillars here, and that's because I want to show you two different ways how you can do the bone structure and how you shouldn't do it, and also just to help you guys out. So where we last left off, we had one whole caterpillar body, and without it really, all we would have is the eyes and the mouth. But in order to create a more realistic caterpillar, we're gonna have to make it and divide it into different segments. For the caterpillars that I drew over here, I chose 3 different segments simply because 3 bubble, 3 bubble, 3 bubble. So I'm gonna just redo that for you guys. So let's start off with a vector, and let's call this caterpillar number 1. And we're just gonna do it without the antennas because I wanna make the antennas separately so you guys can check out how different bone sizes influence each other and how much power they have over each other. I know that sounds a little weird. And I've decided to make the caterpillar old by making them white instead of red because when you see the bones in the program, they're red. So you're going to have a pretty hard time to see the bones when the caterpillar itself is red. So, ta-da, here we go, part 1. And obviously create shape. There we go. Now we need to make the caterpillar number 2. And go here and then make the second segment. Once you start to animate with the program, it's quite simple. You can have different things overlapping each other as long as you guys, you know, kind of figure out what's best for what you need. So like if it's a tree and the plant is moving on the side, or you know, it's not going to be a big deal if one thing is overlapping each other because that's what plants do. But if it's like a finger, then it's really, really important to learn how your layering works. Oh, for example, that. Or where you place different objects on top of each other. So it's like Photoshop. The higher the layer, the more obvious it'll be seen. So if I put this folder or these layers on top of this, I won't be able to see any of my caterpillars. So I want this at the bottom because it's the background. Simple as. Okay, take this, make them white, create shape, there we go, and the last one, 3 other little bubbles. Did I make more than just 1 bubble? Yeah, sorry. For that part I kind of added an extra one by accident. Oops, it's okay. So yeah, I just divided it into 3 little bubbles. And remember, you have to create the whole shape. So just because there's an outline here doesn't mean that your shape starts or ends there. Also, this clicking sound is very important for when you create a shape. Just listen to it, and when you hear it, you know that it's clicked, that it's working, that it's all connected, and you will be happy. So there we go. We've created a shape, the same shape, but with different pieces. So this is part 1. Right here. I'm just gonna show you there. Part 2 and part 3. So now I want to create the antennas. And I'll show you a neat trick. And I'm just gonna move the mouth and the eye pieces into this new folder because I just cannot be bothered to draw them again. And it's just really simple because we already have it. So there we go. And this little neat tool here can hide an edge. So if you just click this, it'll disappear. And that's really useful for when you want to hide certain aspects of your drawings or designs. Now in my previous video I said that it was quite it wasn't a good idea to import Photoshop images into Anime Studio. And I say this because I've done it myself, because I wanted to import large, beautiful images that I've drawn from Photoshop and put them into Anime Studio, and I found that if I had the wrong aspect ratio and then try to make it bigger, it would lose all of its resolution. And if I did something too small, something too big and then try to make it smaller, it would just look really, really strange. But obviously you can import vector images and other sorts. And obviously if you do have the right resolution, you know, and you think it's worthwhile, then definitely import your Photoshop image. Just make sure you have the right resolution with regards to your settings, and make sure that you have the best quality export images, just to get that right. And also, when you are using, for example, vector animation, it looks kind of weird when your background is a little fuzzy, just because there's such strong lines and then there's something really blurred in the background, unless you want that purposely that way in like a depth of field purpose. So here we go. I am going to move the right eye, the mouth, and the left eye. Oops. Trying to here, and I'm just gonna get rid of that old body. It's gonna go and metamorphosize. So now I'm going to click the option bone when clicking new. What we've chosen previously was vector. You can choose image, like I said, from Photoshop. You can import your stuff. Group is what I have here, for example. It's like in Photoshop, you just put all of your layers in there so you don't get confused, because there's so many different layers. And I'm going to click bone. We can talk about all of the other things later. So caterpillar real, because there's so many different caterpillars. And I am just going to put them all in there, and I'm going to move these in front because, like I said, they do it in a hierarchy of layers. So here we go, we got my caterpillar. He looks really happy. And we've got different pieces of antenna. So now I'm going to introduce you to the bone concept. And I'm going to show you the other caterpillars. So this was a caterpillar. I don't have the eyes or the thing, but I do have the bones. So you can tell that I created two different ones. I'm just going to move this one just to compare. When you're in a new Anime Studio, just remember, on the outside this is rotation and this is actually moving your layer. So here you see two large bones and a small bone in the back, and then two bones facing outwards. Now remember, the way you create your bone determines the way your character is going to be animated. So with regards to this, I chose this bone to be the main bone. So this is the first bone I drew. So I drew this one, then this one, then this one, and then I drew those two. Then I'll show you guys later how to interlink them. But as you guys can tell, this is their level of influences. And then compare that to this one, which is it looks the same, but it's very different. Because I started off with the middle bone because I thought, oh, well, it's the middle bone that needs to go first because it's the base. And this is very wrong, because as you can see when I do this, it's not connecting. It looks horrible, it's a little wonky, and it just goes all over the place, and it's absolutely horrible. So remember that the way you put your bones down has to be in the layer of hierarchy of what is most important. So with regards to this bone structure, that's how I wanted it. I started it at the end because I wanted to move these two bones primarily, and then this will be the base, meaning that if I move this, the backbone won't move as much, whilst if I move these ones, because this is the main bone, everything else is just going to go crazy. That's not a good way of putting it, but I'm just going to say it like that. So yeah, I'm now going to show you how to determine the level of influence and interlock your bones. So let me just quickly hide these and go back to the real caterpillar. I should give him sunglasses and a hat just for that. So I haven't added any bones whatsoever, so I'm going to start off, like I said, from here. And make a big bone, that bone, and another bone, and connect it to the little bone. There we go. Obviously, you can do it starting from the front and going backwards like it would seem, but then I wouldn't be able to connect my little bones, and I'll show you why that's important. So now if we click bone strength on the left here, you can now suddenly see, determine on the bone that you have clicked and chosen lastly, the level of influence each bone has. Now, the larger the level of influence it is, the larger effect it has on all of the other bones. So if I can't show you here because the other bones, let me just quickly. So if I lower the level of bone strength or influence on all the other bones, this bone will have the largest amount of strength. And it'll influence everything else. So for example, you see this here, that's moving because it's not connected as well, but it's this one has the main bone strength. So I don't want that. I want my bones to have the same amount of bone strength according to their size and what I drew. So the head and the front is particularly large, and I also want it to apply to all of the levels that I drew. So for example, this little antenna is kind of missing out, so I'm going to make it a little bigger, because the drawing is there. This one I'm going to make bigger. So as you can tell, that moved according to the size, but that is the smallest area. And now I am going to connect them to the bones. So as you can tell, there's these little yellow socks here, like it's Christmas, and I'm just going to do all of these because it's not relevant. So the right eye is a separate layer, and I want it to connect to this particular front bone. So I'm going to click bind layer, because it is a layer, and click this bone. It'll turn red, and it'll be a little star on the left of your little sock. And I'm going to do the same for all of these items, and the antenna is different. So this is the caterpillar's left antenna from my right. So I'm going to click this one, same thing for that antenna. And what this does is it just connects your layer to that particular bone. So the program knows, so that's part 3. You have to make sure that you you know which part is which part, otherwise you're going to screw it up like I just did there. So yeah, so you're telling the program, I want this layer to be connected to that particular bone. So when I move that bone, that layer is going to move as well, because otherwise I could have this little part connected to that bone, and whenever I move that bone, this just goes all over the place, and that's what you really want to avoid when animating, especially using bone structure. So double click caterpillar or your bone layer, and you have the option to add shadows, motion blur, masking, depth of field, but I want to click on bones. Now there's 2 options here, flexible binding and region binding. Flexible binding, I'm going to apply it, is like I told you, the larger the bone strength, the more influence it will have on other pieces of the body. So as you can tell, this isn't really very nice to look at, but as you can tell, this is a very simple animation, and when you're dealing with other things, you can kind of redraw it to make it look more realistic. So I can have that circle larger, for example, because it's layered behind the main front, and this one I can have layered in the back. So let me just quickly find that piece. Let me just put this one behind there, and that one's fine, but I could, if I'm on frame 0, resize this if I wanted to, so that when it moves it won't look so strange. Obviously bone strength, when you are doing region binding, will have a particular effect on this. So click bone, click region binding, and then the difference is that according to how bone strength is, you're gonna see a huge difference. So it'll only work with regards to where the bone is, but because I've binded each layer to the bone, it won't really make much of a difference. And I like flexible binding just because it makes it give a more supple feeling. So let me just get rid of these two guys because I've shown you guys what they're worth. And now we have the caterpillar. I hope you guys liked the video. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Bye!